Hello and welcome to the first ever Q&A for the Terran Union. My name is Zach Doherty. I am moderating tonight. This here next to me is Fleet Admiral Coke. And also here, lined in, we have Universal G and also Logan.
Yeah, both of those guys are also ministers here, and as you guys well know, we are after last week's live announcement, we wanted to also follow that up with a Q&A session so that everybody can actually ask their questions and get to know the members of the TU, see how things are set up on our side of things. And we want to make sure that we are being very open and transparent from here on out. That's very important to us. So I guess if you want to start.
So yeah, let's get let's roll right into some questions here. So first off, I'm going to just address it to the table here, and then really whoever wants to pick up is good to go. So first question here is, what is the relationship between the TU and the ones who have left?
So, and I'm pretty sure that when we say the ones who have left, we're referring to the Eldritch Order. And there are a few other ones that left for Sol Nebula and for some other organizations. But primarily, obviously, that's the most recent one. That's the one that everybody remembers. I want to make it clear again that we respect everybody's decisions for why they left. We know why they left. We know that it was a difficult decision to make. It was something that they really had to... They put a lot of thought into it, so I do respect each and every one of them. That being said, I do believe that we can still... First, we can definitely still have peace between the two nations. That's not a problem. I know a lot of the people that moved over, we can work things out. But one of the major things is we can't have people that are going to go back and forth and still try to instigate more problems. I know there's still some people that are going through the TU chat and they're going to be trying to take members, or they're going to try to instigate more problems with the TU, and we just really, we don't have room for that anymore, I don't think. I don't know if you guys want to comment on that further, but...
Uni, you have anything?
I'm partial to their decision, like, all for them if they want to start something new.
Logan?
So the question was, what's the relationship between the TU and the ones who left? I guess the ones that didn't take it too seriously are friendly. I guess. I don't know. I haven't talked to a lot of people that left. Okay. But the ones that I have talked to left seem kind of nonchalant about it.
Yeah, it seems like consensus is that we're not looking towards picking any fights. It's more just,
right.
We're gonna move forward and try and find common ground and figure out what we need to do, right?
Right, and we're all still members of the Sen Alliance, and we're going to keep using that to our advantage. I mean, we all entered into this alliance thinking, okay, we're gonna have a solid plan for Alpha, so that all the member nations of that, we're all going to get on board, and we're all going to know what we're doing. So we're going to help each other out, and I intend to stick to that. We're gonna hold our agreement to that, and as soon as we actually have a solid foundation to work with, we will definitely go guns blazing on that.
Yeah, moving forward. Okay. Well, let's roll right into our next one. Actually, just so I make sure I heard you right, you said what federation?
As the... Wait, which one? Sen?
Yeah.
Yeah, the SEN is how it's...
Okay.
So it's the Sen Alliance. And that was made shortly after we left CSYN. There was a need to still have some kind of alliance with other nations to make sure that we were still talking to them. So there's a couple other organizations, and I can get into that later on in this alliance. But the main goal is for us to have a pact between all the nations for about 6 months at least.
Okay.
So that we can all get off on a strong footing.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we had that clear.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving forward, we have another question coming through asking if the Opian Federation, if we're still allies. I guess I'll throw that one to you, Mr. Coke.
Well, I don't think we've had any changes. The main thing is we will have to reach out to all of our allies that we currently have, make sure that all of our terms are still good. I know our foreign affairs minister was another one of the ones who left, so we need to make sure that we're going to pick up right where we left off and make sure that we are definitely covering ourselves. So, but to answer the question of are we going to be still allies, yeah, I don't see why not. If we were allies before, it's going to stay the same. We're going to try to be as friendly as possible with everybody at this point. So, I don't know if you guys have any other comments on OPN or any of the other allies that we have.
Uni?
In regards to that alliance, I'm pretty sure that's null now, since they were aligned with the TIF and they've split.
Okay. Well, elaborate a little further. What do you mean specifically?
Well, that alliance was made by Zedvan, I'm pretty sure, and they've decided to go with PO, and now they're a part of that organization.
Okay.
Like I say, yeah, that'll bring up a good point of there's still a bunch of people who have like dual citizenships between the two groups.
That's
and one thing that I did push last week and the week before was if you're gonna leave, you're at full willingness to do that. But my worry is that we don't want people to take advantage of both systems. So if you're part of one of the organizations, then in good faith you should not be part of the other. If you still want to remain a citizen of the Terran Union, then we will work with that. I mean, that's fine. But we want to make sure that the people that we have in the Terran Union are people that are loyal and aren't trying to just cause the next rift.
Yeah, I guess that brings up a good question. Actually, I think it'd be good to dive a little deeper on this dual citizenship issue, specifically just because of those issues. You know, I think it's good that we address these topics where there's kind of some gray line, where somebody wants to still be a citizen but has all these other responsibilities with their orgs and other systems that they are a part of. So I guess really whoever wants to pick this up from here, how we don't really have a policy.
Yeah, so I guess that actually brings up a good question of what does it mean to be a citizen?
Right.
And I think, well, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
And we have a lack of game mechanics being provided to us right now. We know building, we know how some of the space stuff is going to work, but we really don't know anything else about the economy. We don't really know anything about I don't know. There's a lot more to it, like taxation and how that's going to work. I mean, but for citizens themselves, if we were to talk about just citizens, what it means to be a citizen, for instance, of the Terran Union, that means that you are at full liberty and rights to live within our borders. You're going to be able to free trade between all of our members. You're going to have the finest protection we can try to offer you, whether it be through our military or a law enforcement or some other form. We will make sure that there is sufficient protection.
Right.
And plus, we want to make sure that all of our members know that if you're a citizen of the TU, that we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that you enjoy the game. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, this is just a game, but we want to make sure that we have a stable infrastructure so that you don't have to worry about any of the little stuff.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. I guess I'll put my 2 cents in as well. As you said, there's a lot of things we don't have game mechanic-wise, and really, as much as there's a lot of things that are still kind of left out, it's important for us to look towards things that we can set up policy-wise as of right now. Specifically, I just kind of got into the game, but I have some background in design and stuff like that. Where we were standing currently before I'd gotten here is there was a lot of discussion of things that wanted to be created or wanted to be put in where we already don't have, again, the game mechanics to back this up. So I think it's better just policy-wise in general, across the board, as you're saying, we want to get everything set up for players to be able to move forward and make things, but trying to or stay away from, a lot of the wants and fantasies of, where we want things to be when we already don't know where we're going to end up in the first place.
Yeah. So I guess if I can, let's talk about the dual citizenship then. So for dual citizenship, we want to make sure that if you're a citizen of the TU, that you are going to stay loyal to the TU. I mean, that's true with any faction that we've got. Any faction is rightly going to ask that of you. But as for dual citizenship, we don't mind if you're a citizen of both us and somewhere else, as long as you don't have clear conflicts of interest in those places.
Well, I guess something I would want to say about that is what qualifies, because again that comes down to let's say I belong to my own personal organization and I have business contracts with other people, but I declare myself as a citizen of the Terran Union, but how do you make it where there's no we don't want to restrict somebody. We don't want to restrict someone from being able to trade with something else or someone else or some other organization just because they're in the Terran Union.
Yeah, so I think actually that's that brings more into the corporate partner stance, and I think we have no objections to if you own your own company and you want to be a citizen, by all means be a citizen. We're going to make sure that we treat you fairly, and I think we have talked prior in the past with our economy. Priority is going to be given to businesses and corporations that are native to the TU. So we want to make sure that we're providing the work for everybody, which brings in the whole thing with corporations. It's like we want you to start your own corporation. We want you to go out, start a mining company, start anything really. I mean, there's a lot of different opportunities that Dual Universe can have. We want you to go out, do what you want, then still be able to have the protections that TU offers.
Right. Okay. So if I'm understanding you right, you're looking at it as more as we don't want to give a lot of we don't want to restrict people. We're more just looking towards protecting people. Is really where where it falls down to, and where your alliance is in that regard. If I'm following you.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's kind of like a way to go around it. But yeah, we just want to make sure that if you are a citizen, we're going to guarantee you protection. And two, if you own a corporation, we want to make sure that we have a strong tie with you. I mean, we want to make sure that we're setting you up for success. At the end of the day, like I said already, I mean, this is a game, but we want to make sure that you're enjoying it. We don't want it to be stressful.
Yeah. We
don't want it to be something that is more of a chore. We want to make sure that you guys are set up for success.
Yeah. Okay. Uni, Logan, you guys got anything to add on any of that?
Not really.
Okay.
That's pretty.
All right.
Pretty straightforward.
I think we've finished that question off. All right, let's move forward here. So we got another one talking about why did we leave CSYN?
That's a big question.
So I knew that one was going to come up.
That's a big question.
I think that's something worth talking about as well.
Yeah. So there has been a lot of rumors going around as to why did we leave CSYN, and I'm also going to be clear right up front. I do like what the CSIN does. I really do. They have an organization that is one to be marveled at. They know what they're doing. They are actually fostering their community really well. The stuff that they're doing, I can only hope that one day we will be able to achieve. is a very good way to put that. But so why we left CSYN? That's a very big question, because it didn't happen over the space of just a couple days where someone decided, you know what, we should just leave. It was, and it wasn't because they think, like, I've heard the rumors too about, oh, you guys are just a big organization, you guys just, like, you don't think that there's enough representation for you guys. And that's also not the case, because we went through, and what we determined was we had fundamental disagreements with the charter.
Right.
We looked at the charter and we said, you know what, this really doesn't work for us. This doesn't work to our benefit. We really need something that is going to be stronger for us in the long run. I mean, it's difficult because it was not something that we came to overnight. Like I said, this was something that was weeks in the making. I mean,
right.
We tried really hard to come to some kind of compromise on that charter, and unfortunately, certain things we just couldn't agree with.
Right. Right.
And for the people that want to know, oh, what exactly you agreed with, I'm not going to get into that. Like, you can read the charter for yourself. You can understand what's going on in CSYN. I think, personally, that CSYN is very good for the smaller organizations, and I think that it's very good for making that community happen. And I'm all for still being part of that community, but I just don't think that the CSYN's charter is something that we can enter into and hold up our end of the bargain.
Okay. Well, also, I think to add, I mean, I know we're on a stream here where, you know, pretty much anybody can be on here. So I guess if you wouldn't mind actually giving a description of what CSYN actually really is as well, just so we cover, you know, everybody's knowledge base and, you know, where everybody knows kind of what is going on, prior knowledge as well.
Yeah, of course. So the CSYN, for those who don't know, it's more of like a I hate to call it like the United Nations, because it's not quite the United Nations, it's not quite the European Union, but it's something similar to that. It's an organization that's aimed at promoting the collaboration between different organizations as best as possible. Okay. And I think they are very strong at doing that. They have a strong team of admins and a strong team of people, of moderators, that really do a lot to help with that. They organize game sessions. They organize DU community talks. I mean, they have a lot of stuff that they do.
Right.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for the people over at CSYN.
Okay. So really, where we're kind of left at, you know, just to kind of wrap everything we just kind of talked about with. So it's more we're in a predicament where we want to cooperate, but we need to reach some sort of common ground, if I'm understanding.
Yeah, and I think I would definitely still leave the offer on the table. Like, if we can come to a better agreement in terms of that, we want to make sure that how do I put this? So we want to make sure that we're going to benefit you guys as much as we're going to benefit.
Yeah, common ground. You know.
Yeah.
Everybody should get an equal share of what they're putting in.
Yeah, and one of our biggest concerns, and we don't mean this to come off as rude to anybody else, but at the time we did have a large military force.
Right.
And by the time Alpha and Beta rolls around, we probably still will have a sizable military force.
Right. Okay.
That's a plan, at least. But for an organization of our size, we would have had to contribute forces to that system.
Okay.
And I am aware that we did compromise a little bit on that system, but that also didn't benefit CSYN a lot if we could just veto ourselves out of going into like a fight.
Oh, so like, for instance, just so I make sure we're on the same page, and hopefully you as well. For instance, if we're a part of this organization that's connecting everybody together, that for, I don't know, let's say a small faction decides to go to war, we get pulled in? Is that kind of what you're trying to say?
That was the original charter.
Okay.
Yes. We did try to compromise that, and we did try to say, you know, this is, we don't want to commit our forces to fighting the battles that smaller organizations are fighting.
Right, which makes sense to me.
And we were all for, okay, we're going to fight pirates. Pirates are probably going to be a big thing in this game because everybody's going to want to steal stuff.
Yeah.
And it's an easy thing. Just go out, attack a ship that's unprotected, and haul ass and get out of there. Yeah. Exactly. We're probably going to see a lot of that. But, so we would be totally committed to protecting ships that are doing stuff like that. But what we can't do is we can't fight other people's wars.
Right.
And when we determined, too, that was something that we couldn't enter into, I will say the CSYN did step up, and they said, well, let's call it this way. If you guys veto, like, the declaration of war, then you guys don't have to provide forces to fight. Mm-hmm. Now, where that sounds great to us, that's not very great to some of the other member nations, and that's actually not very fair to them. So that's where it turns into, it's not a fair...
There's not equal representation anymore.
Yeah, okay. Not only is it not equal, but then we're receiving the benefits of being part of that organization, while also not fighting their wars.
Right, I guess that... Yeah.
But then they, at the same time, CSYN doesn't benefit from having us in their organization.
Right, okay. Logan, anything?
No, I think it was a pretty good example.
Okay. Uni?
I mean, of course, there's going to be a lot of differences.
No, I pretty much agree with what you say about the whole war thing.
Okay. Okay, I'm glad we're covering everything then. All right. Well, again, if you guys have anything, just chime in. Honestly. All right, moving forward. Let's see here. All right, here we go. Did the reactions to enlisted corporations change in general?
And I think that kind of ties back to what we were saying. It's I don't think that we're going to see a lot of changes between the people who we've talked to, but I do want to stress please have all of your representatives recontact us.
Yeah, that's good.
We just keep that line of communication open.
Yeah.
The more you communicate with us, the better that we can work with you guys. We do have a list of all the member nations, all the member corporations and all the corporations that we've established any tie with, and we will be going back through that, but it's going to take some time before we can get to that. But that being said, I don't believe that there were any changes to any of our statuses.
Okay. I feel like that's pretty answered. So we'll move forward here. So, what is your stance on corporate partners, and do they need to have citizenship? So I know we already kind of covered this.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just reiterate real quick.
Yeah. I guess just to quickly answer that question. No, you don't need to have dual citizenship. If you are a corporation that works completely outside of the TU, we'll still work with you. But like I said, we will need to give preference to the companies that are TU based. But that's the same way with any corporations,
right,
or in any nations that are going to be fixing their economies, so to speak. But I think that corporate partners are a very vital part of success. We as the Terran Union can only employ so many miners. We can only employ so many soldiers, or so many. You pick it: designers, shipbuilders. We can only employ so many of those. Where it would be nice to have all of that in house.
Yeah.
That's where we really need to depend on companies that can come in and contract with us, so that we can be more effective.
Well, I guess here's something that I'd like to add. In terms of, we can only hire so many people. Something to think about is, we can't really look at things as so cut and dry. With this, if I'm understanding everything right, we should still be a free, open market for trade. We're not gonna, there might be some trade restrictions, and that I can't really speak on that because I need to talk to.
Right. A lot of this is going to fall under the Ministry of Commerce.
Yes,
I mean, the Commerce, and the whole point of restructuring our departments and ministries was supposed to be so that each of the ministers had their own way of running things,
right?
So that they can set these goals. So I can't speak for Commerce,
right?
I can only kind of give a general outline of where the TU stands, and then they're going to be the ones ultimately making the final call.
Right.
So, and I will respect their judgment in that, but I don't think it's going to be very far off.
Right. Because, I mean, really how I'm looking at the situation is, as much as that's going to be mostly set by them, a lot of how, this should be, in my opinion, is that we have the ability for anybody to come in and out of these positions and contracts, just post it to the world, and whoever wants to have a contract with us, go for it. Just work out all these details, with our departments to really kind of figure out where things need to be, and
Exactly.
whether or not things need to be discussed.
Exactly.
Why don't ever make it to where they need to have, I don't know, as much as it's allegiance. A job is a job. As long as you're going to do
Right.
a good job, your reputation holds. So. Guys, anything on that? I haven't heard
Nice
anything
big
from you, so I'm
whopping
just
topic there.
make sure we're still all in agreement here. Uni, you still with us?
Yeah, it's not exactly my area to comment on.
I know, it's like
I don't know,
it's a whole lot of economy.
There's a whole lot of stuff. Okay, well, I guess where we're looking
could
at
jump
right
in.
now. Oh, you got something, Logan?
Yeah, you were talking earlier about there is only so many so-and-so type of people that you can hire
Right.
out of organization. Well, and that's one thing, but as you said too, they could come and trade in our markets, and and I think that will just like work itself out naturally,
Right.
especially once we know what kind of game mechanics we're talking about.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because again, that's all stuff. That's
Game
all,
mechanics.
all
Yeah, it's like,
hypothetical still.
that's,
We're still waiting on some of this stuff. Okay. Well, I think we're going to go to a short commercial break.
commercial break.
Oh, I guess we
yes.
don't really have commercials, but you know what I mean.
We should get some commercials. That'll be a
that'd be
plug
fun.
for our corporate partners out there.
Yeah, that could be fun in the future. Actually, have some actual commercials. Well, either way, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in a few. And we're back.
Just like
From
that.
commercials. Just kidding. Okay, so I'm not going to waste anybody's time. Let's just get right back into it. So, next in the line here, we have UFC SYN. How do you feel about them now and with your new leadership? That's how they phrase that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we sufficiently answered that. But just to reiterate that, yeah, we left CSYN, but I still have great respect for them. Like they run a hell of an organization over there. Just because we're not the right fit doesn't mean that they aren't great.
Right.
So, yeah, we're always going to have a nice soft spot for CSYN. It's in regards to with our new leadership, I mean, that's a different question too. But at the same time, nothing is drastically changing from what we've been trying to do for the last month or so. We're still going to stay the course. We're still going to try to be as efficient as possible. We're still going to try to put the best people in for the jobs. It's these things that we care about.
Okay. Okay. Well, again, since we've already kind of covered this, if you missed that, I guess you're going to have to catch it on the recording rather than in the live. I guess moving on. Next question: which nations have left the TU?
Okay. Starting from when?
That's a good question.
So, there was a time back in January where we used to have an entirely different branch of the military, TUSC. Great, excellent team that worked really well together. Unfortunately, we've always had internal issues. That
right.
I'm not going to lie about that. We've always had internal issues. And at that particular point in time, it got to the point where it was too much, and they didn't want any part of that anymore. So they broke off and they formed their own organization called Vanguard. And they are an excellent team. I will say that with absolute confidence. It's a real shame that we can't have them back, but they are definitely top notch.
So our affiliation with them is still on good terms. We just
absolutely
we're there's no, as much as we're no longer together, there's no burnt bridges or anything like that.
And even though we don't have like anything written down in paper of like this is a contract that we have, I mean, the reasons that they left weren't personal. The reasons they left were because the structure wasn't working for them.
Right.
And it's like I understand that. I truly understand that. So no, we really like them. But and more recently, as I'm sure a lot of people have already known, we had 6 of our ministers leave. 6 very good ministers and very qualified ministers. They too had their own their own reasons for why they left. They didn't want to deal with internal struggle, and I don't blame them. Again, it's like we're not going to deny that there's a decent amount of internal struggle on an organization that has 450 members.
Right. Not everybody's going to agree. Exactly,
and we don't want everybody to all have the same line of thinking. We want disagreements, but we don't want partisanship for the sake of partisanship. So we don't want people to just disagree with each other because of personal reasons or because they vote against them for everything else.
Yeah, go in a direction of, well, why don't you agree? Because I just don't like your opinion.
Yeah.
Rather than saying that, express it in a manner where you actually have something to change or add or write up a amendment or something.
Right.
Okay. I guess that's fair.
Yeah, and so that ended up leading to them leaving and forming Sol Nebula, which is a group of, I think, about 10 people right now. And again, like very competent ministers, former ministers that, they want to start their own thing. And I like that. I really do. I hope to at one point myself make my own corporation if I have the time at this rate. But we want to make sure that we know that they are definitely still well respected here in the TU.
So again, there's no problems. Everything.
Right.
We're still willing to communicate and cooperate. It's just that's what happened.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that would bring us to the last organization. And the most recent one to leave was the Eldritch Order. And as a lot of people know, that was the TUAF. That was the Armed Forces branch of the Terran Union. It was led by people who are very competent. They know exactly what they're doing. They have a plan for Alpha. They know exactly what the military should look like. They know exactly how it should function. And it got to the point for them that they thought that we had internal issues that just couldn't be solved.
Right.
And where I fundamentally disagreed with that. I said there is absolutely no way that we can't find a solution to any of these problems. And I did try very hard to keep it all together.
Before we even go forward,
Sure, yeah.
like what is, if they say if it's inevitable, what's the alternative? It's better to at least try and find some common ground or some solution. So, I mean, I'm not gonna knock what they're doing and what they're saying. If they felt if that's their opinion,
Exactly.
that's fine.
Exactly. And I don't want to make it sound like I resent them for leaving or anything, because I don't. I will keep reiterating time and time again. I greatly respect each and every one of them, and I respect their decisions to leave. If they want to leave, that's up to them.
Mm-hmm.
We just ask that if you do it on good faith, and make sure that
nothing malicious. We're not, if I'm understanding you right, we're not trying to push them away or burn any bridges. If they want to split, they can split. Just do it from good intentions, not on malicious hatred, I guess, if I'm following you.
I think so. Yeah,
because it's like if they want to leave and they feel like there's structural issues,
mm-hmm.
that's fine.
Yeah,
that's how it should be. But looking towards don't leave things, bury the hatchet. Why continue problems that are no longer apparent and we're trying to move forward on? If that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and basically it's like we've heard the arguments. It's like the game's not even out yet. Well, you're right. The game's not even out yet. We don't have time to go around fighting each other before the game's even out.
Yeah, there's no mechanics out for a lot of this stuff.
We can save that for when the game comes out, and we're all like, okay, we've got all these guns, now what do we do with them? Like,
well,
that's when we can have that conversation.
I guess that's fair too.
But right now, I mean, there's no point. There is no point to keep up this just drama and like wanting to break things apart. Like, because I know there are certain people out there that's their goal. Their goal is to just cause as much chaos as possible, and we'll keep going. It's like we're gonna keep being a good organization, and I would strongly suggest every other organization follow suit.
Right.
It's like don't let any pressures, internal or external, influence your decision making internally.
Yeah. Again, that could come down to what exactly we're left with is why, like you said, why keep causing fights when there's no way to really address them. Sorry about that. I don't know why that keeps going off. Either way, towards I just got caught in a loop. Hold on a second. Why?
Damn, that Discord
Caught me off guard. Why exactly should we reiterate problems of the past when there's definitely no reason to, address them anymore? They're all in the background and no longer. I'm gonna have to fix that. Talk for
please,
a second.
Yes, please take a moment and save us all. But
There we go.
Man, I'm getting derailed with what you were even talking about.
Anyway, let's get back on track.
Yes. The main thing is that we don't have room for this drama anymore.
Right. Yeah, there's no reason to continue a fight for something that we should be trying to mend ties and, get back to something where we can cooperate.
Right.
Uni, anything?
Not really.
Thank you for the input. Logan?
Nope.
Okay.
I think we beat the horse dead on that one.
Okay. I mean, I'd rather check.
Yeah.
I'm trying to cover everything here. Okay. Moving forward.
I would like to address one question. And someone said, I don't know if it was a question that was thrown into this or what, but the question was, how would we even consider playing Dual Universe on these shitty laptops? And I will assure you, this camera, I will assure you, this is not the laptop that I play games on. I have my own PC. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hold on a minute. Let's just put our big old gaming computers up here. That don't make sense. Come on. Give us some slack here. We're trying to, you want to be able to see what we're doing, not put my... Here, hold on a minute. Let me just put this up here. Either way. Moving forward. Oh, here we go. Who should I contact to discuss economic unions? So...
That's a good question. The thing is we have an acting Minister of Commerce right now. That is Bishop. He is still getting learning the ropes, so to speak. So he's going to be working on making sure that he's got a good infrastructure in place for everything, not just that. We do have another great contact if you want to reach out. Misty Griffin is our Department of Economy head, I believe. And I would say, well, first of all, to talk about economic unions, I would say hold off for a week or so, or like at least a little bit longer. Let us get our ducks in a row. Mm-hmm. We're not saying no, don't come to us. We're saying we just need a minute.
Right.
So we thank you guys for your patience in us resolving all these issues. But if you need something right away, you can feel free to contact me. I can definitely forward stuff off to someone else.
Right.
And point you in the right direction. You can contact Misty. You can contact Uni. Anybody can point you in the right direction of where you need to find for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I guess something else also to kind of say is as well. Being that I'm active minister for infrastructure, that a lot of this stuff can't really. It comes down to we don't know what the mechanics are going to fall into, so it's good to have all these things, worked out in some manner. But who knows? There might even be something internal to the game that would help in these things that we just don't know yet. So, I mean, just talking from my personal responsibilities, I'm not stripping what was already there. I'm just kind of rolling back to only things that I know are going to be around. Like there's no reason to start worrying about transportation until I know what the game is going to allow us to do. But that doesn't mean it's not on my list. So again, towards unions, they might be able to exist, I don't want to say hypothetically, but like externally to the game itself.
Yeah, I think
as well.
There's a word for it. I can't think of it either. It's like giving your word for it.
Yeah.
It's a pre-agreement almost.
Yeah.
Like an agreement to work together.
Right. So it's like
letter of intent. That's
yeah, there you go.
So we can sign a bunch of those and make sure that we can tell you, yeah, we will work with you, if that's what you need.
Right.
But and you bring up a good point of like game mechanics. It's like game mechanics are the biggest problem right now.
Right, and we don't want to get tied down into details where, again, as you said, we're not against unions. It's just we don't know how things are going to work. So all we can do is, put a pin in it and, make a couple notes towards what actually needs to exist.
Yeah.
Agreeing that unions need to happen, but who knows how that's going to work out in the game. For all I know, again, I'm only going to talk about, as an example, my particular area is, for all I know, it's something on my list is I want to have public transportation where it's all automated, so nobody needs to mess with it. There's no traffic problems, and they handle themselves. But as much as I want that to be something, I don't know if it's even going to be possible. There's all these things in hindsight that would be great, but you don't know. We won't know until at least Alpha rolls out. So, I think we kind of beat that one to death too. So let's move on.
We're getting really good at that.
Okay, so next question: who is leading the TU currently, and how do they see the path forward?
That's a good question. Currently, we're going to be led by, first, the Ministerial Council is going to lead everything civilian. I mean, that's not going to change from when we made that announcement 2 weeks ago-ish, I think. And everything executively on that side is going to go through ministers. On the military side, it's going to be a completely different thing, but we'll get to that later. But as for the entire organization, what we're going to try to do, and we're just going to make this a loose thing as possible. So far, it's Uni and I, and we're going to be talking about how to better make sure that we plot our path forward for the TU. And that's going to be the High Council. Mm-hmm. Basically, what it's going to be is
it's two branches almost in some way, if I'm understanding.
Yes and no. It's more of like an advisory board, so to speak.
Okay.
So we're going to be able to say, this is what's going on. This is basically our link between the military and the civilian sides right here. We're going to be able to say, we have this problem. The military needs this thing. We got attacked or something like that. This is where we can we can talk about what direction that we're going to take from that. Mm-hmm. Now, as for the actual decision making, I don't think it's going to influence as much of the decision making in terms of the ministers. I mean, the ministers are going to be making their decisions for like the economy. They're going to do research and development, and we don't want to step on that. Mm-hmm. I think the main purpose of this is we're going to point ourselves in the right direction. And if we see things going slightly off to the side, we want to be able to make sure that we correct it. That's really all there is to it. So I guess if we don't have a leader as Darius once was, we don't have one solid position that's a leader. Mm-hmm. We've got a couple of us that are kind of like de facto leaders, I suppose. But then the ministers are really the ones that are making the calls day to day.
So, I guess hypothetically, talking towards issues that might happen. Say, for instance, I don't know. Let's say, for instance, somebody we start having a pirate problem, or maybe, etc. We have a possibility of being pulled into a war or something like that. Mm-hmm. Anything. Would it be towards calling a meeting of all ministers and high officials to decide what to do, if I'm following you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, the goal is as transparent as possible.
Right.
So we want to make sure all the ministers are on the same page. We want to make sure that none of these decisions are made lightly. Like if we've got people that are worried about, we might go to war over this right. issue. We want to make sure every minister knows that. That's not something that's just exclusive to the High Council. It's not something that is exclusive only to the military either. I mean, we want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So all the ministers are going to be receiving the information, whether it be in memos or whatever.
Right.
That's details.
Some sort of report of some.
Yeah, and so they're going to make sure we're going to make sure that everybody is up to date on their information.
Okay. Now, I guess a follow-up question to that I'm kind of curious on. So, as much as, let's say, our ministers as a whole are our representatives, let's say uh, the people disagree, but the council says we should. How do we, as much as we're still kind of working these things out, which I think it's good to bring these up, what would we do in that regard?
I think that's a good question, and I think that is something that we definitely need to talk about.
Yeah.
Because that's going to happen. I'm sure it's going to happen.
There's definitely, I mean, that it's something that happens.
But that being said, since basically the High Council is made up of ministers and generals, or whatever we're calling them, that is going to be, they're not the end-all be-all, I guess I'll say. The ministers have their power because they are trusted to have that power.
Mm-hmm.
So they know what's best for their ministries. They know what's best for their citizens. So if all of the ministers disagree with a decision, then obviously that decision was not the right decision. And that's something that was not addressed before. This is where internal issues come up, and they have came up time and time again with the Terran Union.
Right.
And this is something that we need to work on going forward. We can't let a disagreement like that say, okay, well, that's too bad. We have to do it because I said so. And
right.
we can't afford to do that.
Right.
We're a very large organization, and we can't make those kind of decisions.
Right. So again, it just comes down to looking towards how we can suit everybody's needs as much as they're, I'm looking at it in the perspective of, say, I'm in the minority. Let's say I don't agree. I'm just going to pick a topic. Let's say I'm going to go with the pirates one. Let's say our parts of our galaxy, or not even galaxy, let's just say a planet. One planet in specific is having issues with piracy. And I don't particularly agree, or maybe I don't qualify them as a pirate. What do you do towards looking at the person who doesn't fully agree, but we can't really, as much as, like, let's say the Terran Union doesn't agree with that person specifically, and we have to address it because they're in the minority. How do we leave them without being ignored, because they're technically not a representative and they're not a minister, so we don't want to leave those people behind.
Oh, that's fair. And I think that brings up a fair question of, like, if you have any conflicts, if there's any conflict internal or external that any citizen has with anything, I want you guys to be able to come to. I'm the Minister of Civil Service. I used to be Internal Affairs, so I'm definitely right up that alley. If you guys have problems that need to be worked out, I urge you to come to me. There's going to be another couple of couple department heads that you can also be able to reach for help. For those small issues, we want to make sure your voices are heard. That's important. And I realize the game is not out yet.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not going to be a lot of issues right now. However, we need to set up that infrastructure to make sure that when that comes up, we will be ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see here. Let's go to another commercial break real quick. We're gonna just I keep saying commercial. Sorry. Let's go to another break because we're gonna go through, and we're actually getting tons of questions here, so we're gonna go and sort through these real quick and kind of try and
we want to try to get to as many of these as possible.
Remove the looping questions. So we'll be right back.
All right.
And we're back from another commercial break. Hopefully sponsorship shoot.
Yeah. See your
Just
sponsor ads here.
Okay, so we've got a lot of questions, and we're gonna try and get to them all. We might have to speed up a little bit just because we're trying to hit everything, and I know we're going a little slow, but we're trying to cover everything too. So on the chance that we don't fully answer your question, put whatever you felt like we didn't cover in again.
Yeah, please do.
And
please.
We'll try and get back to it. But again, we're trying to, get through as much as we can. So okay, rolling back into it. So what is the current command structure of the TU? Is that a second question?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So we'll just start.
Yeah, it's just a follow-up question. I like it.
We'll start with that, and then I'll go to the follow-up.
So the current command structure of the TU is we have our High Council, which will kind of oversee everything. On one side, we'll have the militaries set up, which, again, we'll talk about. And then on the other side, we have our ministers. And the ministers are going to run all of our day-to-day life and all those executive decisions. There's now 6 ministries, and each one of them has a very crucial role to managing the day-to-day stuff. This we felt is the best structure for how we're going to do this. As to what's underneath, so what we've set up is we used to have 14 ministries, and when we had 14 ministries, we found that there was just a lot of red tape and things where a lot of the ministries were stepping on each other's toes, and where it was nice to have it work, it didn't work well. So we're trying to make it more efficient so that each of the ministers can do more decisions autonomously, and then each one of them now, rather than make all of the decisions, the point is to break their ministry up a little bit so that they can delegate these things to different department heads.
Okay.
So, for instance, in infrastructure and regional development. So now that's more of like an overarching everything to do with construction.
Yeah, it has a little bit of
development, city, urban planning. So now there's going to be urban planning is actually its own department. So rather than the minister having to focus on that, we're going to have a department head focusing on all of the urban planning.
Right.
And doing stuff like this helps a lot. This helps lessen the load on a minister while also making sure that more people are part of the process and that we actually get things done efficiently.
Right.
That's very important.
Right. As well as, I think also if we break it down into such, the minister itself could have their own meetings, and when I don't know what you'd call it, but all the ministers get together, they can just take that report and then follow it up to the rest of everybody. Exactly. Which will it will help solve problems before they come, I guess, because if, again, we'll use, I guess, mine right now as an example. If we can start checking policy with other departments, external, like let's say Department of Commerce, I need to talk to them about how taxes work for land,
right.
Which, again, we don't know how that's going to happen.
So we have no clue.
I'm not going to bring it up because I don't know how the game works yet for that. But if we ever needed to talk to them, I could go and approach whatever under person, I guess they don't have a title because I don't know what they are yet.
Not sure yet.
About where that would fall, and we could communicate, figure out the details, apply it, and then push it up to the head. So,
right.
Okay. Let's.
I think we answered that enough.
Moving on to the second follow-up question to that: what offices are open, and what are there enough members in office to be? Oh my God. To be
I think I understand the question.
I understand the
question. So what offices are open, and how many people do we need minimum to make sure these things are ready? I think.
But
so. That's the question I'll attack. So we have a lot of offices open right now, but we're not in like a hot rush to fill them. We want to make sure that we have the right people for the jobs. We don't want people that just want power for the sake of power. We want people that they like doing this kind of work. So they joined Dual Universe because they wanted to be a full-time miner. They want to run their own mining thing, or maybe they're really in EVE Online. They were really good at their accounting and their economics. I mean, those are very critical parts to our system as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are definitely people out there that have these skills that we want them to be in the positions where they're making the management decisions.
Well, I guess something also I would like to kind of address, because I think also it wasn't just specifically ministers, it was just members. So,
right.
I mean, from my personal opinion, like I've been trying to kind of get things rolling with, development of how things should be laid out, as much as I really don't know how a lot of them are playing, but just to have those discussions, I just look at it as, just start talking to people, try and find the people who are in charge of these things. Like I've been constantly trying to talk on the Discord, being like, hey, I'm looking for help, any input would be great, just come help. That's all I'm going to say. I'd love to have people's input, even if you don't want to be in the department, or if you just have 2 cents, push it to someone, give it to someone, send it to me, send it to Coke. It's good to have these things written down rather than just being, up in the air. And maybe, in the future, if again, just kind of like the Q&A, if there's a huge rush of them, we'll try and find a better way to deal with them. But in the meantime, I'm just trying to get people, at least personally for what I'm doing, I'm just trying to get people to ask questions and put input.
And I think that'll come in time. It's definitely something that we'll work on.
Right.
And when we get closer to the alpha, that'll change a lot. I mean, we're going to see more people join back in. We're going to see more people get involved. So I think a lot of that stuff will work itself out. It's just going to take some time, and we're not in a super hot rush to get it done.
Yeah.
Then to answer the second part of that question, where it's making sure there's enough members in office when the game launches. I mean, we want to have a solid plan for what we're going to do the day that the game launches. We want to make sure that when our members, the ones that have alpha access, get online, this is their plan. This is what they're doing. So that's critical. That's what we're working with some other alliances and some other organizations on, and we really need to nail that down. And I think when it comes closer to alpha, I'm sure we'll be last minute making our plans, but we do want to have a solid structure before we go in.
So I guess something else I'd like to add to that too, just because I'm going to try and cover everybody's level of information background. Alpha is only just mostly for testing. They're not going to carry over anything that's done in alpha.
Right.
So I guess also something to look at is, as much as we're going to need some sort of plan for alpha, it's important to just start testing things.
Yeah.
I don't think there needs to be such a huge
hoopla
on structure.
This is going to be a big time for research and development.
Right, exactly.
For infrastructure, for the military, because we're going to be able to figure out this is how things work.
Right.
So a pilot's going to learn how to fly their ships in alpha.
Exactly.
And the buildings that we create in alpha, they're not going to stick around in the permanent setting of it. So this is our chance to plan for things. I think that's a good point to keep in mind. It's like where alpha is like, oh, we have to hit the ground running. Alpha is also the time for just testing things out.
And realistically, hitting the ground running, yes, but not in the way I think a lot of people are thinking, because none of it's going to stick around anyway. It's good to, oh, all right, we've set up a little facility where we can test bench things, basically. We're just, working out the kinks. And I'm getting familiar with the game as much as my background is in design. It's important to, again, like I keep iterating, is focusing on preparing for the actual release, because again, it's all it's all going to be removed anyway.
Right.
So
I mean, we will dedicate our time to making sure that we're testing things adequately. And that's going to be the point from Nova Cork as well. It's going to be, hey, let's make sure that we're breaking the game. I think we're all very capable of making sure that we can break the game.
Yeah.
So
let's find the holes. Let's find the limits. Let's see where there'll be problems. That's really what we need to address.
We'll get to that eventually. So
okay, moving on. Trying to keep it flowing here. Will you pick a leader in the future? So let's just start with that because this one has a couple.
This is a 3-parter or something like that. But so the answer is no. We're not going to be picking a leader in the future. I don't think that's the overall goal of what the TU is supposed to be, and I think being the leader of a large organization is a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think it's better. I mean, my personal opinion, a council is much better because then everybody's problems are addressed. Just kind of like how we were talking earlier with, okay, maybe a couple different groups disagree. It's better to have some sort of council discuss it rather than just being like, what do we do? And then everybody looks at that one dude. So
I think I think this is where having the leader position was great when we were a small organization. I think it's very important to have that person that is a position of like respect and everything. And I think Darius was very, very good at being that. I think he was very good at putting out, this is the outline for the Terran Union, this is how we're going to go about doing things, and he was very, very valuable in how the TU came to be where it is today.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is, but I don't think that's a position that we need another one of.
Right.
And that's not to say anything bad about Darius at all, because like I said, Darius is a great guy, and I think he did a very great job. And when he comes back during Alpha or Beta to play the game, he will continue to do a great job.
Right.
But we're not looking for a replacement leader.
Right, because I mean, it leaves open. As you put out in your statement before the Q&A, we were talking about how it caused. I'm not gonna. I'll let you actually say it, but it was kind of towards it, from what I was gathering is. It's pointing out those problems where there's giant heads of organizations, right? Am I following you right there?
I guess so, in a sense, yeah. I think what we were talking about primarily was there's a problem inherent with the system. Nova Cork hasn't dedicated a lot of time to the community system and developing that, so we have a very weak system in terms of that setup. So it's difficult to try to make stuff like that work. But I think, like with anything else, we're going to make sure that we're going to do a good job, and we're going to make sure that that overall we're just going to be better at this.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So I guess moving on to the second question of this is what happens if there is future disagreement among ministers? Who resolves this? Again, I guess we're ahead of our own questions.
Yeah, we're putting the and well, to address that, yeah.
I guess it comes down to we just need to have internal meetings, which will be transparent. I'm assuming.
I think one of the biggest issues with ministers in the past that I watched several times. I mean, I've been here since I think I've been here since September of last year, and I watched it happen several times, and it's when ministers have disagreements, rather than come to compromise, there's people who think people are just doing this as a personal slight, or they're doing this and they are not willing to compromise. Like, they think the other side's not willing to compromise. And there's plenty of real-world comparisons here, too. Like, you can make those all day long. But basically, in terms of how are we going to handle future disagreements, we welcome them.
I mean, I think it's good to address them, too.
I think
don't hide the problems.
Yeah, when two ministers disagree, that means we actually have something to talk about.
Right.
Like, we came to this problem time and time again where it's like, we have several ministers that just don't agree with anything, and, oh, why do we have them? And it's like, well, they provide a very valuable perspective.
It's important to bring up discussion of disagreement.
Yeah.
Without any, if everybody agreed, then there's no reason.
Right.
There's nobody trying to poke holes in what could be existent that we don't know.
Right. And I think, as well as far as like making a system for how we're going to do this, we don't need a system.
I think it'll dress itself.
Yeah,
honestly.
I think as long as all the ministers are as qualified as I believe they are, then I don't think it's going to be a problem at all.
Right. And I guess the third and final question to this.
The third part, yeah.
Who holds the government together? And, I mean, I'll just go right from... I think this one's pretty straightforward. It's, the people should be, it's not just the officials, because the officials are, who are representing them. But, it's important for everybody to cooperate together. I mean, do you have any input?
Yeah, I think, I guess it's important to mention that it's like I've been working through this now for however many months since September, and it's quite a task to keep everybody happy, and you can never keep everybody happy, but you can do your damn best.
Right.
So, and that's what we're trying to do, I think, is when I made the commitment to say I'm sticking with the TU, I'm going to follow this through, and I'm going to make sure that as long as I'm here, we will be solid, and I will hold to that. So I don't know if the answer to the question is me, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that we can get this done.
I think also, I look at the question and I'm really trying to get in the mindset of it as well, because it's like, I think a lot of people need to understand that things are not so black and white, and we're trying to address every single issue, especially because, as my example was of earlier, let's say we call someone a pirate and that person doesn't think they're a pirate, and just because the minority says they're not, what are we supposed to do? We have to make a decision, and we're going to try and, do what's best for the TU, and it's important that, let's say we disagree policy-wise or maybe on a decision, it's not because we want to anger people. We're trying to do the best we can with a situation where, I don't know, let's say it's 50-50. So it's hard to, just say what's going to hold us together when we could be driving on two different approaches to where the TU needs to go.
Okay.
So let's move forward. So what's the future structure of the military?
That's a good question for Uni. Yeah.
Yeah, Uni, you want to start?
All right. Nothing official yet, but I do have an idea of how I think we can go forward with it. The system I was thinking of would be something akin to a house or a chapter system for anyone that knows Warhammer.
Okay.
This also leads into the next question, what is the Knights of the Round? They would pretty much be the equivalent of the Ministerial Council for the military.
Okay.
They would also act as, I guess, the field generals for each of their own respective houses or chapters.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I think it's a good solid way to start.
Yeah.
I think we've got a clean slate. Got a clean slate to work with. I think doing a Knights of the Round system does have its benefits in terms of now, rather than having a full-on infrastructure of, this person reports to this person, which reports to this person. I mean, this actually kind of segments that a little bit more. So now you have this house or a chapter,
Mm-hmm.
and you could consider that a fleet. So now you have an entire fleet that is its own section of the military flying the TU flag. And I think that this goes back to like this isn't a new concept. I mean, this goes back to like medieval times when people were doing this. And I think it's effective because it's good at delegating those tasks.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's got some drawbacks, but I think we can address those with time.
Right.
But it's something to start with.
Okay. So I guess I have something to follow up with that. So as much as we have this Knights of the Round, where does this fall towards citizens? Let's say I'll just use myself personally. Let's say I am running a mining organization, but I also want to participate in the military. Where does that leave my choices? Because of, for instance, let's say we have those two groups where the Knights of the Round is handling these issues, who's also communicating with the ministers. How does that fall to the average citizen? And I'll throw that to Uni.
It's kind of hard to answer.
A nice
considering
long
I don't
question to
have
leave you with.
this whole thing fleshed out yet, but I guess the chapters or houses would try to act like their own separate, but still a part of the TU thing. So the average citizen, I guess, wouldn't exactly be a part of any of the houses,
But they could still function in the government, or I mean, not in the government,
Oh,
in
yeah.
the military. They could serve, is what I'm getting at. Is really.
oh yeah, the houses and Knights of the Round wouldn't be the be-all, end-all of the military. There'd be other divisions, like, I guess, a generalized navy or a generalized army.
Okay, I see what you're getting at. Okay, I guess, I mean, in reality, we could always come back to discuss it. I know it's still pretty fresh, and we're still working out some details, but I thought I would address it just to kind of, give the idea of where we're heading.
Yeah, and I think what we were talking about is the main concern with if you're going to be doing both is that you have to have time to dedicate to both.
That's true.
So if you run your own mining organization, you need to make sure that if you're part of the military, that you can still dedicate enough time to the military. Because it's reasonable for us to ask, we're talking about the protection of the country, if not other countries as well. So we do need to make sure that we have a solid military, making sure that people are going to be dedicated, and if we need people to come online, that they will.
Yeah, but I guess that will self-govern as well, because
exactly.
There's these things where as we write up these policies and put them out, that'll solve that issue.
Exactly.
A
lot of these things will solve themselves.
Yeah, because I look at it as, okay, so you want to do both. There's a written down policy of how this needs to play out. Like, okay, you have a certain time dependent commitment to the military,
right?
And if you can't serve that, you either need to push off your responsibilities of your own organization and take either a lower role, or you need to disband it because that's just going to be the way it is.
I think
don't know.
There's no reason for us to have to legislate that.
Right.
Like, that's going to be the onus of that is going to be on each person.
Right.
If you want to make that decision, that's totally up to you. We're not going to get in the way of that.
Right.
And I think that's important to say too. Is like we're not here to legislate the crap out of anybody.
That's true too.
We want to make sure that you're still enjoying yourself, but we want to make sure that we're still doing our jobs too.
Right. So that everything gets done.
I think it'll solve itself.
Yeah.
I honestly do.
I guess in the future it'd be good, as we develop things, it'll be good to come back to this. So I think we'll just leave it at that for now. Let's see. Okay. How will you tackle foreign affairs from now on?
All right, and I actually see this question's from Zamaro, so glad you're watching. Welcome back. How will we tackle foreign affairs from the former foreign affairs minister? So, first we got to find a new foreign affairs minister, and that's this isn't a job that that we're going to be finding right tomorrow. We're going to just pick someone at random. No, it's got to be someone that has been talking to other organizations. They're on good terms with some other organizations, and I think when that person gets in, then we can address this question a little bit more. Our plan, though, is still having a minister of foreign affairs, and we're still going to try to keep it as efficient as possible to make sure that all the needs are taken care of. So
I'm just gonna take that.
Gee, thanks. But I think the main thing we want to do is the system that we had for foreign affairs was fine. We just want to make sure that we have another good person up in this spot now, and we'll take care of everybody.
Okay. Next follow-up question: what relation goals do you have looking at other orgs?
That's a big question too, especially since I'm not going to be putting myself in foreign affairs so much, because that's going to be the person who's actually foreign affairs job.
Right.
I mean, sure, myself as a minister, I'm going to have. Thank you very much. As a minister, I'm going to have some say, I guess, a little bit in like saying, okay, we should improve relations with this, and this. But at the end of the day, that's going to end up being the Minister of Foreign Affairs job. But for at my personal goal, if I had it my way, I would say that we're on good terms with everybody. I mean, that's the goal. The goal is to make sure that every one of our allies we are taking care of, and we're making sure that we're representing them fairly, and if they have any issues, they can come straight to us and be like, listen, this is a problem. We can address it from there.
Agreeing to disagree is better than war, and it's better to talk about the problem than blow it out of the water or make it into some sort of, I don't know, small argument, or it could turn into a big argument about something that could be civilly discussed. And at least, even if there's no common ground, to at least have that conversation. And then from there, I'm not going to say war is ever always the first option, but, it's like, if something comes down to that, what are you going to do? Again, it comes to those tough decisions, When you're in the situation and you have to make a decision, and that's all you could do, what are you going to do, you know?
And I think this kind of ties into this next this question I have down here. During the alpha, will TU members work with others to test the game, or will TU alpha team remain isolated? And I think that's a good follow-up question, and I think we should address that really quickly. Yes, we're gonna work with other teams. I mean, that was the main goal for the Sen Alliance, and we are going to commit to that. So one of the key proponents is the wrong word, but one of the key aspects of the Sen Alliance was we're going to share research and development as much as possible. Because,
which makes sense.
Yeah, the more we can split up this, the work, the better we'll all be.
Yeah.
So we'll all be able to share these resources. So that really is our goal for Alpha, is making sure that when our infrastructure is in place for researching and development, and also infrastructure, we need to be able to share this stuff with the other organizations where they would be able to share stuff with us.
Right, because, I mean, closing off information and closing off research just causes, I'm going to go out and say it, that could turn into a superiority complex. It's better to be, again, it comes to that transparency thing. It's better to be transparent. It's better to work collectively. Absolutely. Because everybody benefits, as you said, and it leaves the possibility to actually get more work done.
So what I'm seeing, will the TU Alpha team remain isolated? I don't think so at all. I think that our team is going to be working really closely with some of these other teams. I mean, also it could come down to, if you want to work with us, contact us. Yeah, exactly. If you're not part of any of these alliances that I'm talking about, step right on into our Discord channel.
Yeah.
Like,
come say hello.
Introduce yourself. Be like, hey, listen, I'm here, so let's talk.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. What else haven't we answered? Oh, here we go. Do you guys watch Glory's podcast?
Yeah, actually, I do.
I just listened to the last one.
Yeah,
actually.
That's a good question. I watch Glory's podcast. I like to stay up to date on everything. DU related. So I'm definitely up in the DUHS channel as a lurker. I'm watching everything, and I think it's really interesting. And you know what's really valuable about watching stuff like Glory is that it gives you another perspective.
Right.
And we really need that. We really need that.
Yeah.
And so being able to watch that, and I'm sorry, so sorry, Glory, that we take up like half of your episode every episode, but I listen to the whole thing, I can promise you. But we like it's a very good perspective.
Yeah.
I really like it. I like being able to watch that and say, yeah, can't remember his name. I think it's Pengu or something like that. And I would like to say I'm gonna be able to prove you wrong and say we will make sure that we're gonna make a structure that's gonna last for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So I think keep setting the bar high because that gives us a nice goal for us to try to cross. I really value it, and I think you guys should keep up the good work.
We appreciate the cover time too.
Absolutely, yeah. This is great cover time. And I guess that falls into the next question. What do I think of DUHS and the other news sources? And I think, like I just said, it's very valuable. I think it's really important that we get all of this stuff out. And I think that the more that we can talk about it, like other nations can learn from how we like just recently had problems.
Right, and I mean, other things to look at it is, it's good to not have people, everybody agreeing all at the same time, specifically because if, it comes down to the freedom of the press kind of thing, It's important to hear, let people voice their opinions, and also to, look towards what they have to address.
Yeah,
as much as we don't agree, it's good to hear others' opinions.
Yeah, so I greatly appreciate all the work that you guys do. I really do, and I really hope you just keep it up. And I'm not saying burn me, but hold our feet to the fire, because I want you guys to be able to ask the difficult questions, and I want us to be able to formulate our answers for it rather than just have press releases. We want to make sure that we're being open with everybody else. This is part of turning the page on the last chapter of our history.
Right.
I think this was the formative time for the Terran Union, and we're still in the formative time for the Terran Union, but it's very important to us that you guys are still there, and we really like you guys.
Right. And who knows, maybe, it might be worth discussing here in the future. Maybe even have
you guys on.
Yeah, maybe we have you guys on, or I don't know, either way. Either way, we're going to go to another break.
Good catch.
Not commercial break. And we'll be back in a few.
All right, thank you.
And we're back.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're running out of time here, so we're gonna only hit 3 more questions. We are planning for a future Q&A because of how much response we have gotten. So if your question didn't get answered today, that form is still going to be up. Please submit more questions, not answers.
Sure, go ahead, answer it for us too.
Yeah, if you got an answer, go for it. But either way, I'm only going to get to 3 more, and we're then going to, call the stream for today. We've been going for almost 2 hours. So let's get back into it. We'll finish this up, and yeah. All right, so first of 3 questions. How many of your 400 members are active, and what are your plans to increase activity within the community?
So, I think the latest count that I had was 446 is how many members that we have. And as you would expect, most of those are not active right now. I think majority of those people are probably just waiting for the game to release. And so, and as we've talked about before, we're kind of duty bound to make sure that when they come back, they've got an entire system waiting in place for them. But we've already talked about that for the most part. How many of them are active? I would say probably 70 to 80 is probably a good estimate, because of the involvement that we do see on Discord. So we see when people are online on Discord. Discord is the main way that everybody talks to each other. I mean, that's the backbone, I think, of all of DU besides the community page.
Right.
So, as for plans to increase the activity, this is where it gets difficult. So, we can set up these things. Like, we set up a couple contests where we had design a capital ship, and we also had like design a building or something like that. It's like some kind of contest, and we did actually try several weeks of doing the contests, and what we found is that there's just not a lot of people involved. I think it's because a majority of our people are inactive.
Right.
That's not something that, one, that we can address right now, and 2, that's even a problem. I think for the people who are here,
that it is or that it isn't a problem.
It's not a problem.
Okay.
I don't think it's as much of a problem. They're gonna be there. They're gonna sit there until they can play the game, and then they'll get involved.
Right.
And for the people who are still here, yeah, I would love to do more to get more people involved. And that's why we're talking about, let's get people involved in the government work. Like, let's set up, what are we going to do for Alpha? Like, who's going to be our boots on the ground? Like,
right.
Are you going to get out there and are you going to do some research work? Are you going to go mining to get ready for mining? Are you going to fly around ships so that you're getting ready to be a pilot? Like, that's the kind of stuff that we need to have the talks now, and that's where I think the involvement should be.
Because, I mean, again, it comes down to, I have things that I want to address, Again, I'll go back to let's make public transportation that is automated. I'd love to know how to do that. I have background in assembly lines and automotive, but, like, the thing is, I still need people who know how to code. I need to know what the game limitations are. There's things that we can, we don't have to nail in the ground for policy, but there's things that are worth exploring, and, people could bring those up and just be like, here, have a project to work on.
Yeah, and I think if that's the takeaway from this question, is how do we increase the activity here, I think we need to try to get people involved that know how to do stuff like that,
and
that know how to work on
I think we're actively trying to do that as well. Just, even with the Q&A, that's why we're here. Okay, moving forward.
Yep.
Second question. What do you guys plan to do with alt accounts?
So alt accounts are an interesting...
Kick 'em.
Or kick them.
Yeah, kick them. Yeah. Alt accounts are really interesting because, one, there's not a good way to find out who's an alt account.
Yeah.
We can try our best. There's a couple ways that I guess you could try to find out, but the problem is there's no concrete way of knowing. what we can say is that if we do find alt accounts, we have done a little bit of action already. When Zamara was still here, he did remove a few. And these were mainly people that were, I guess, spies. Because apparently the spy game is very big right now.
Well,
I
also would like to say, I mean, it's not good to just blanket it as everybody as a spy either.
Well, exactly.
Let's say, for instance, I want to hold some sort of role, and again, this goes back to kind of like the military thing, right? So let's say I'm running an organization, and I don't want to remove this account from that head. Great. Doesn't matter which one you play on, as long as you know, like, let's say the other one is doing something in the military. Also great, but let us know what's going on. You know, don't leave it to where we don't know. Also, you know, it goes back to the time constraint thing. So, like, let's say one's in the military and one's running an organization. That's awesome. Just make sure you have enough time to do both.
Right.
Or something like that.
So, as for alt accounts, we'll remove them if we find them. But, unfortunately, that's the best we can offer right now.
Right.
Because we don't have, and we also have to be careful too. We don't want to kick people who just, like, this is their second account, but they actually want to play as both both players.
Yeah, it comes down to it's not even a policy thing. There's no way to handle it yet. I mean, we'd love input, I guess, in some manner, because it's not an easy problem to solve.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, with having them, I mean, we've been accused too of, like, oh, we have the high numbers that we do because most of them are alts. It's like I can pretty much assure you that that's not the case. Sure, there are those cases where people have created extra accounts just to apply, but we have done a good job at weeding those out too. So that's where it gets kind of fuzzy, and I think I don't really have much else to offer right now on it.
Because I guess again, it would come down to policy once the game really starts rolling. Because it goes back to, if you want 2 accounts and you want to play with those 2 accounts and you don't want to cause problems, I wouldn't see a problem of why that
you're the one
exist.
paying for the monthly account, so.
Right.
We're not going to stop you.
Yeah, but what it comes down to is, you know, at the same time, you got to be careful, but not restrictive.
Yeah.
I guess is what we're trying to get at.
It's a problem that, in time, we will try to come up with a solution for. So.
Yeah. Okay. And finally, moving into our third and final question for this live stream, can we have monthly / weekly / regular meetings in the TU Discord?
I think that's a good question, and I think yes. I think it would be nice to have something like this every month, especially since DU is going to revolve around a monthly access system.
Right.
So you're going to get a new influx of people at the beginning of each, or like, I don't know exactly how it's going to work. I don't think anybody knows exactly how it's going to work. But every month you're going to see either the same dedicated players or you're going to see the new ones who are still joining on, but they still want to know just as much information. Mm-hmm. So I think if we can do a Q&A session every month, that'd be great. If we can do a public announcement, public statements like the one we did before, giving like a State of the Union per se, that'd be great too.
Right.
As for additional weekly or regular meetings, I think the councils are going to be meeting more often. They did meet weekly, but weekly...
Maybe bi-weekly?
Yeah. Weekly was kind of too often for when the game's not released yet, so I think bi-weekly is going to be a safer way to go. It's all up in the air right now, but yeah, the answer is yes. We will be having more regular meetings,
and as well as, you know, as much as we're gonna have these meetings more, I think as long as the demand, again, I think we're gonna do another Q&A, not next month, maybe even earlier, maybe later. I don't know. We got to see how things play out, but you know, they're not going away. We're gonna actually probably do more. So
yeah.
Okay.
It looks like this is a 2-hour stream.
Yeah, we're going up on 12 o'clock over here. We started at 10, so...
And I'm sorry, Uni, what time is it for you now?
About 2 a.m.
So we're sorry we're keeping you up so late.
Yeah.
I will say, too, the reason why we did it at this time was we always catch a lot of flack from the European time zones saying we never do things during their time. So this was our way of putting it right squarely in your time zone. So
no reason to complain. We did our best.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it was great.
And also, follow up to that, the reason why we did this on Independence Day of all days is because we have the day off. So,
Yep.
So this is what we're doing. I guess, yeah. We don't really have much else to talk about. Do you guys have any closing comments, concerns?
Uni?
I think we've done a good job.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd add is, if you want to work, come find me. I have things that need to be worked on.
When you want to work, we'll give you a job.
Yeah.
We'll find something for you.
Other than that, I guess also one other final thing, like we said, I don't know, I know people have been bouncing in and out of the stream. If you still have questions, please go post them in the sheets. We do plan on having a future Q&A. We would like to discuss further on more issues. Actually, there's still some questions we didn't get to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's really it. We do have a little surprise planned for everybody because, after all, it is Independence Day. But I promise you, we were gonna bring out a lot of fireworks and our shotguns and hamburgers and everything else that is traditionally American. But unfortunately, due to budget restrictions, we really don't have access to any of that stuff. So what we have instead is just our little sparklers here.
If they actually
Light.
light. Yay! Oh. Oh, yay! Oh. Yay!
I think you should stop moving at them.
The sparkler sucks.
Yeah, so this is... I'm really concerned with the quality of
budget restrictions. Either way.
You know what? This is actually a pretty... This is a pretty good...
this is an accurate description.
Of America.
Good job, America.
Yeah,
this
as this is burning out... Concerned.
Either way.
We thank you guys for joining us today. Happy Independence Day to all of our American friends, and to all of the European and every other country. You don't necessarily have to be American to enjoy this day. This is so sad.
Just give up,
This
man.
is so sad.
Well, I want to go enjoy my holiday now.
Thank you for joining.
See you guys next time.
Thank you. Peace.